This video shows how to load substrate and use the substrate saver tool on the HP Latex 1500 printer. In this step, we will show how to load substrate. Before you begin, make sure you have the substrate roll centered and inflated on the input spindle, and an empty core centered on the output spindle. To start loading substrate, unlock the back door. This can be done either from the internal print server, or IPS, by clicking the Load Substrate button, or by pressing the hardware button located at the rear of the printer. When the button highlights with a blue light circle, you can press it. Open the latches at the rear of the printer. Open the loading table. Pull out the substrate and place it onto the loading table. Then, close the loading table and make sure the substrate is held in place by the door. Close the latches. Use the Move Substrate buttons to advance the substrate until it reaches the curing module at the front of the printer. Open the front window. To avoid wasting substrate during the loading process, you can use the substrate saver. Place the substrate saver onto the curing module and align it with the metallic strip. There are magnets on the strip, used to secure it to the curing module. Align the substrate saver. Open the substrate saver flaps. Once the flaps are opened, go to the internal print server and use the advanced substrate buttons until the substrate reaches the substrate saver flaps. There is a red line inside the flaps that the substrate should not pass. Place the edge of the substrate inside the flaps, then close the flaps to hold the paper in place. Use the Move Substrate buttons to move the substrate backwards to detach the substrate saver magnets from the curing module and up to the platen. Open the curing module latches and pull the curing module handle to open it. Pass the substrate saver through the gap between the printer and the curing module, and continue the loading process using the substrate saver as an extension of the substrate edge. You might need to use the internal print server to move the substrate backwards to make the edge of the substrate align with the spindle. Once the red edge of the substrate saver is aligned with the output spindle, attach it to the spindle with tape. First tape in the middle, and then at each side of the substrate saver. To make sure there is no skew, open the loading table latches. Go to the rear of the printer and turn the input spindle to tighten the substrate on the roll to avoid sag. Close the loading table and latches. Push the curing module back to its original position and lock the two latches on each side. At the front of the printer, turn the output spindle to tighten the substrate on the roll. Before you close the window at the front, you can install the substrate edge holders onto the substrate. Substrate edge holders prevent substrate edges from lifting up and causing jams during printing. The substrate edge holders have to be installed on the substrate, not on the substrate saver. Use the Substrate Advance buttons to advance the substrate until it covers the platen surface. Stand in front of the printer and place the edge holder onto the far side of the platen, and cover the edge of the substrate and/or substrate saver with the edge holder. Attach the other side of the edge holder in the space between the platen and the diverter wheels. Then cover the edge of the substrate or the substrate saver with it. Make sure that each edge holder is properly positioned. An incorrectly positioned edge holder might cause a carriage crash. Tighten the screw at the front of the edge holder to hold it in place. If it interferes with the diverter wheels, move the edge holder until you find a better position. Take another substrate edge holder and repeat this process at the other side edge of the substrate. Make sure the substrate and the substrate saver are in the correct position on the print platen, so that the printer prints on the substrate and not the substrate saver. Close the window. Select the type of substrate you loaded and click Finish. The printer checks the substrate. Now the printer is ready for regular use. You can find additional helpful videos at hp.com/support videos and on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/HP Support Advanced.